All right, this is if you need to review some factoring skills. I factor by what I call the A times C method. It's also been called the British method. Okay, but this will work for any type of factoring on a trinomial. So let's start off by looking at the following problem. You got 15x squared minus 7x minus 2. So in standard form, our A is 15, our B is negative 7, and our C is negative 2. So A times C method. You're asking yourself, you're going to multiply A times C together, the coefficients. So 15 times negative 2 is negative 30. So what multiplies to give you negative 30, but has a difference of negative 7? Well, hopefully you said 10 and 3, and since I want a negative 7, I got a negative 3. So step 2, we're going to rewrite that middle term as the sum of those two new terms now. And then it turns into a factoring by grouping problem. So we're going to group the first two, group the second two. All right, pull out the greatest common factor, your GCF. So we're going to get, what, 5x. So that leaves us with 3x minus 2. All right, 3x and negative 2 have nothing in common. I have to factor out something, so I'm going to pull out a 1. So that's going to give me 3x minus 2. So you know you did this right if these two are the same. So those are common, and then you're going to have our second factor is 5x plus 1. So A times C method. All right, let's look at another one. All right, so the following problem. Negative 8x squared plus 22x minus 15. All right, you need to look for a common factor first. And since my lead coefficient is negative, I want to factor out that negative. So we're going to factor out a negative 1. So that gives me 8x squared minus 22x plus 15. Now that GCF, that common factor, is going to go in front of my final answer. I'm not going to use it in my next steps when I go to factor that trinomial now. All right, let's go A times C. So A times C, 8 times 15 is 120. So it multiplies to give me 120, but adds to give me negative 22. All right, think of what those numbers are. Hopefully you said negative 10 and negative 12. All right, so I'm going to rewrite that middle term. 8x squared minus 10x plus negative 12x plus 15. Group the first two, group the last two. All right, GCF. So 2x leaves me with 4x minus 5. All right, now this lead coefficient is negative, so you have to pull out a negative. What, negative 3. So 4x minus 5. So your final answer is going to be negative from where I pulled out that negative 1 at the beginning. 4x minus 5 and 2x minus 3. Now remember, you can always check a factoring problem by multiplying it back together and see if you get the original trinomial. And definitely check your signs, making sure you're getting that original trinomial. All right, let's look at another example. Suppose we had 9x squared minus 49. All right, our A times C method's going to work here. But hopefully you're also going to recognize a quicker pattern. Here, I don't have a middle term, so it's 0x minus 49. Okay, A times C. What multiplies 9 times negative 49 gives you negative 441. What multiplies to give you negative 441 but has a difference of 0? Well, 441 is a perfect square, 21 squared. So negative 21 and positive 21. All right, rewrite that middle term. All right, group the first two, group the last two. GCF. All right, my lead coefficient's negative, so I'm going to pull out a negative 7. All right, my common factor, 3x plus 7, and then 3x minus 7. All right, notice these are conjugates. And we learned earlier in class when you multiply conjugates together, the middle term drops out. So if you recognize these patterns, these are all also called the difference of two squares, because both 9 and 49 are perfect squares, and it has to be minus, because if it's a plus 49, it's not going to work. There's nothing that's going to multiply to give you negative or positive 441 and add to give you 0. All right, one more example. So we have the following problem: 3x squared minus 6x minus 105. All right, y'all should always look for a GCF first, because you're not factored completely unless you've pulled out a GCF. Now each of these terms are divisible by 3. So I'm going to factor out a 3. All right, now remember that GCF is going to come down and be part of my final answer. You can't drop it. You can't throw it away. All right, now I'm going to A times C method on what's left. Well, this time my A is 1 times negative 35. And I want to have a difference of negative 2. So negative 7 and 5. All right, so here again, rewrite that middle term. Group the first two, group the last two. GCF. So my common factor is x minus 7 and then x plus 5. But here again, you've got to have that 3 out front. Now you're not factored completely, so make sure when you finish that you look at these factors and make sure they have nothing in common other than 1. All right, there's the review of factoring. You may see some shortcuts, like here the lead coefficient is 1, so notice that my factors are just my negative 7 and my 5.